from just collaborating with each other, right? There are media companies like ourselves, for example, like I said earlier, if we are doing shoots in Rwanda, for example, we don't have to go through the expenses of flying teams all over there, right? We can work with these teams that are there virtually, have our directors here, and then we connect with them virtually. So that media literacy of how we're able to leverage the use of the platforms. Then I would also say, for example, I would also say, the use of the use of some of like the really, I just forgot what I wanted to say. So I'll just pass on that here.
It's fine then. I think I'll just go over to Ellen at this point. When you were trying to explain the video around the Youth Day of Service by Leap Africa, you highlighted the power, that there is power in when young people collaborate. And judging from this campaign itself, what do you think are some of the common issues that African youths face in the quest for collaboration?
Okay, so I will speak to this through the lens of the Sustainable Development Goals, because primarily that's what the Youth Day of Service focuses on. And I'll start off from one, awareness. So I'm not sure how many people, I mean, this room looks like a room of well-learned people, but you find that even in rooms like this, not a lot of young people are aware of the SDGs. They're beyond even the 17 SDGs, the part of the SDGs. Under each goal, there are sub-goals and ways in which they can connect. So I think the first issue I would highlight would be knowledge of pathways to change, pathways to impact in their environment, and ways in which they can work together to make change possible. Then bringing it home to the Youth Day of Service through the lens of Leap Africa and some of the challenges we have faced executing a Pan-African initiative like this. I will start off with cohesion. So you find that Africa is very divided as a continent. Even though we have a lot of things that join us, or should I say bring us together, more than things that divide us, we tend to focus on the things that divide us. So you find that Africa is hard to work across Africa while you are in Africa, which is a huge problem. So you find that, let me bring it home again to things like being able to send funds to projects across Africa. You find that you're in Africa and you're using dollars. I've never been able to understand that. How we're in Africa and we cannot send our own currency to each other. We have to go back to the West to use dollars to send money across Africa. Then you find language as a barrier. So the fact that we dwell a lot on the things that divide us, they only serve to divide us more. So you find language as an issue, you find sending funds as an issue, you find travel. So you find that even traveling within Africa is hard. We don't have a shared airspace. It's as expensive as it is to travel outside of the continent, even more expensive to travel within the continent. So these are just some issues that exist with carrying out projects within Africa. So you can't even export, and I use the word export, knowledge or solutions from, hey, this is happening in Nigeria, this is how we've solved it. This same issue is going on in Gambia. How can we export the solutions there? Then you start having all of these things come up. You're struggling with finding people to collaborate with. You're struggling with language barriers or even cultural barriers. But yeah, this is just some of the things that have affected working across Africa.
Quite a lot there. Language, travel, currency, so much interesting one from there. And yeah, it's bringing me up to this question to Anto. I know that in your work, even as an educator and entertainer, there are challenges that you face. Could you state some of these recurring challenges in your work?
So I'll definitely piggyback off Ellen and TJ. There's a lack of understanding or lack of knowledge of what exactly is a collaboration, how they can collaborate. Someone may have an idea, but they don't even know how to go about it. And I'll say, for me, what I've experienced both personally and from people who look up to me as, I don't know, Sha, but some people call me mentor, I don't know how, but a role model. Imposter syndrome. I don't think we talk about it enough. a lot of us are afraid to make that first point of contact to collaborate. We don't know if someone's going to bone us. We don't know if because we only, let's talk about social media. We don't know if because we only have 200 followers, that person that we were reaching out to won't want to work with us, you know? So a lot of people are just, they have this amazing idea, but just that first instance of, yes, I'm gonna run with this. If they send me, fine. If they don't send me, okay, next one, you know? Imposter syndrome, I think, is definitely a big problem when it comes to African youth. I would also say just the general, you know, some people may fight me here, but it's something I've experienced. The expectation of the collaboration. Some people automatically think it's gonna turn into ₦1 million. This one video, this one project, or this one have you is gonna put you on Bella Ninja. It's going to have TJ calling you to influence for his next big, project, but it doesn't always happen like that. So sometimes people are a little bit abrasive to collaborations because they're not sure of the actual outcome. Although collaboration is, everyone says collaboration is gold, this is the way forward, but a lot of people have some different, I think it's more of personal issues that are, keeping people from deciding to go out and actually collaborate when it shouldn't be that difficult. Just like Ellen said, yeah, we have language barriers, but half of the songs that we listen to, we don't know what they're saying, but we're collaborating in the clubs, are we not? So we're collaborating on TikTok, doing the dance moves, even though we have no idea what people are saying. So a lot of things that we're considered challenges are actually ways that we can collaborate better. There's songs that, because I didn't understand what they were, I started trying to learn the lyrics, small, go to Google, look at Translate, you try and figure it out. So the things that we consider challenges or barriers can actually be ways to unite and connect even further.
Thank you so much for sharing that too. Imposter syndrome and expectations, wow, quite eye-opening. And I think it leads me to the program developer in the midst, Daniel. As you develop this program for youth and all of that, what are some of these common threads that you've experienced yourself?
Yeah, I think one is ignorance, lack of knowledge about what you're fighting for, the change you're fighting for. Ellen talks about SDG. When you have youthful energy and ignorance is a time bomb, right? But you need to combine that youthful energy with the understanding of how the SDGs work, with the understanding of how politics works. We shy away from politics, but somebody define politics as the science of human interaction, understanding how the party system works, understanding how, if you want to make change happen in your local government, what are the steps you need to do? Because we have this youthful energy and we leverage media to just pour it out, but sometimes you're just speaking to a rock, right? But when you combine that energy with understanding of how politics works, understanding of the political climate, understanding of how to make change happen, understanding of SDGs, we need understanding, we need knowledge, we need wisdom to navigate the principalities of this, of the political wickedness of the African climate. So, and when you don't have those things, what you see is that people have this energy, they're doing this energy, and the energy is not yielding results, and they give up, right? And when they give up, the next thing you do is to jackpot, is to leave the country, is to say, you know what, I can't change this country, country can't change me, so I can as well just leave, right? And you then see brain drain. That's another challenge. So this is the best hands that you need to also make some of this change happen and live in, and you're left with the minority of people who doesn't necessarily have, they have the political will, but not the understanding to do this. So when you're developing programs, especially even in Leap Africa and in my work, there's always a knowledge component of that program, because people cannot give what they don't have. And you need to teach these people youth participation, youth development, teach them political awareness, because we understand that when you combine energy and knowledge, you're going to make things happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for that touch on. And it's really echoed what other speakers have actually shared as to some of the challenges that young people face while trying to get into collaborative space or trying to collaborate themselves. That brings us to our next round, just speaking to solutions. I know that we've itemized some of these challenges that we faced across our work and how we even try to collaborate ourselves. So I think I'm going to take these two by two. These questions to Ellen and Hanto. Despite some of these challenges that you've highlighted, how are you expanding or scaling up your work across the continent to maximize the youth population? Who wants to go first? Hanto?
Sure, I'll go.
All right.
So I guess when I came into fame or what have you, it was from Big Brother, and a lot of people had expectations of what I was supposed to be. Maybe a fashion influencer, makeup, skincare, lifestyle. Yeah, I did do, I'm sure. But that really wasn't why I went into the house, and I tried to maintain that out, when I came out. I wanted to get a platform to be able to have these kind of conversations, to talk about the importance of collaboration, to talk about the importance of being an active citizen. So now that's what I'm like hardcore into. Yeah, I still like to look nice, but I'm very focused on the type of conversations that I'm having now, because I think it's key. I think when we talk about collaboration, no matter how far we go, until we figure out what is wrong with home, our collaborations won't be as great as they could be. We have people that are doing amazing. We have people that are unicorn. We have companies that are unicorns. They've been able to raise funds and all those ones. But if Nigeria was a working Nigeria, the funds would have been way higher than what they would have been able to raise, So I'm so passionate about speaking about what's happening at home, what's the core. So I've started to even have these conversations outside of Nigeria, because in Africa, it's almost all of us going through the same exact struggle. So I even have some friends, thanks to social media, thanks to collaborating, just going into the DM, you never know who will answer you. So I now have friends in South Africa, people in Ghana, people in Zimbabwe, Tanzania, who are all having these kind of, conversations. One of my friends, they're also having an election in June. So we've already been talking about how can we see what's happening in Nigeria, so we can also, help them down there in, Zimbabwe as well. So I think for me, I'm intentional about my work. I'm intentional about collaborating. I really want to, for myself as a personal, I want to change my life, and I'm hoping that with these collaborations I'm doing, I'm touching one or two, persons as well. But I think for me, my focus right now is focusing on active citizenry across Africa, because just like Ellen said, there's no reason that we're all Africans and we have to change dollar and then come back and then come back again. It doesn't really make sense to me. So I think if we believe in a united Africa and we work towards it, that's the best kind of collaboration that we can have right now.
Thank you so much. Helen?
All right, thank you so much, Anto. I'm going to piggyback off some of the things you said, particularly starting from when you mentioned being able to, one, use the media to collaborate and then export solutions. And I'm actually quite interested if we're able to export the solutions from our elections
Only try.
to Zimbabwe, because, woo. But yes, looking at that, for one, for me, would be the power of the media. So calling on my brother TJ and his people to be able to think of how, so let me start from, I think so far now we've succeeded in advocacy with the media. So young people have a voice now. You find it on Twitter, you find it on Instagram. We're loud, we're speaking, but are we being heard? And if we move from speaking, are we taking actions? So for me, it's how can the media be able to move us? The media has given us a voice. Can the media move us to action? Now it comes with who are the players in the media? Who are the people controlling the media? How can they get young people to move from saying how aggrieved they are with situations to acting on the situations they're uncomfortable with? So it would be, one, the power of the media. I really believe in the media and its ability to influence change. Coming together to collaborate with active players to effect change. Second would be sustainable solutions. So I find that the West coming to give us money to solve issues, or most of these things are one-off. So I cleaned the street, then what? I gathered waste, then what? I spoke to young people, then what? Sustainable solutions, what's the next step after that? So you've done this. What does impact look like? When in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, are we thinking sustainably? And that's where things like the Sustainable Development Goals come in, because you're thinking beyond this one effect. How can I create sustainable solutions? So we need to also start thinking sustainably. And when we start thinking sustainably, even the issues that we have with collaborating right now will be some of the solutions or some of the things we would solve as we think sustainably. Then lastly, I would say Africa needs to start seeing itself as one. We need to stop looking at the things that divide us and find things that unite us more.
Thank you. I'm sure our participants are, getting from all of these nuggets shared by Anto and Ellen. And I think these questions now are to Daniel and TJ. There are solutions in place that you're currently using to solve some of these challenges. How have you moved around some of these critical issues that you've highlighted while sharing some of the challenges you face?
Okay, so for me, I think that Again, I use my business as a point of explanation so that people are able to understand. I think for us, we are just very intentional about collaboration. So sometimes you would see our team members about to embark on a project, right? And they feel that we have the resources, we're big enough, we can do this alone, or we can go ahead and just execute alone. But I always remember to bring the team back, to remember that even if you're big enough to do something alone sometimes, the kind of benefits that you get from collaboration is limitless, right? Because from us being able to, for example, we have a project called Trend Up Awards, right? Being able to collaborate with Trend Up Awards, by the way, is a platform for influencers and content creators. Being able to not stay in our region or decide to do it alone, we're able to collaborate with leaders in different industries to be jury for this particular platform. For example, also Leap Africa reaching out to us for Youth Day of Service. Seeing that potential of, I'm sure Leap Africa can do it alone, but the purpose of getting better results is to collaborate. So for me, I think that us being intentional about the collaboration, even if you're big enough, if you are able to do these executions alone, would help you to achieve better results. And I think that's one of the solutions, really.
Intentionality, starting from the team itself. That's a good one there. Over to Daniel.
Yeah, actually learning how to use the devices ourselves helps us so much to even know what other offerings we may have. You may think that you're a great speaker, but you might realize that you're actually better at editing. You just never know, until you actually try to learn how to use these, devices much more. And of course, having these kind of conversations, I'm sure this conversation is not only, just us that are on the stage. I see someone is doing Instagram Live. So using the technology to actually share this information beyond. Because of tech, we're able to speak with people all over the world at any time of the day. I was just reading something, I think it was just today, how they spoke about in 1993. That was when email was just coming about, and the reporters were just shocked, like, what's this email thing? Is this true? Is this a joke? Look at us now. I'm sure most of us have like 5 email addresses. The one we use on our CV, the one we use for cruise, the one we use for our businesses. So just actually understanding the tech that we have at our hands and how better that we can implement it, I think that's one of the greatest ways that we can move forward when it comes to collaboration. Definitely.
Thank you very much. Daniel?
Yeah, I don't know what to add to that anymore, but just to say something, I would say that technology, maybe we need to learn how to use technology to solve. It's like social media for social good, all right? So technology to solve social problems, right? A lot of people are going to learn coding now, but it's to work with tech firms. People are not necessarily looking at solving problems with the tech skills they're learning. You should just go and earn the big bucks, which is fine, right? However, I feel there's an opportunity there for us to start thinking about how do we use these tech skills to solve problems. There are documentaries about how in America, for instance, or some developed countries, some of the problems are being solved using technology, from glasses, from eye problems to schooling, to education, to mass delivery, robotics and all those stuff. So we need to start thinking through that lens, right? Secondly, like you said, also use social media. Yes, social media is it evolves over time. There are many conversations going on online. I think many young people too with that audience should perhaps using their platform to address some of the social issues. It may sound very dicey because of their brand, which is also understandable, but I think there are more innovative ways to address some of all these social issues using our platforms, no matter the platform you have. And I think lastly on that point, in terms of leveraging technology, is asking ourselves, what can we do with what we have, right? What can we do with what we have with your phone, with the little? Sometimes you say, oh, I just have 1K followers. What made NSAS trend was everybody writing a tweet with NSAS in it, right? So it's like the African proverb that says, if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. All right? So it's recognizing what you have. What is the tech that you have? Sometimes tech can feel so ambiguous to say, but tech is at least like your phone, right? What can you do with your phone? If everybody talks about a particular problem and bring, a lot of conversations around that issue, then maybe governments or the guys up there can take it up. But I think everybody has to get involved one way or the other. And lastly, your tech skills that you want to learn, Don't just let into the big box. Think about how can this tech solve a problem.
Interesting angle, Daniel. Really.
Just also add to that, sorry. I saw a tweet on Twitter, for example, somebody wants to develop like a drone, or is it drone now? It's drone that will help, monitor different election points or polling units, something like that, right? So even though it's brilliant, but I think it was just an idea. He just has one drone for one polling unit, right? But you're talking about, do you scale that kind of idea, for instance? So that's looking at the social problem through the lens of tech, right? And I think the more we begin to do that, we begin to have sustainable solutions, like she said, to some of our problems.
Thank you so much. I think this brings me to Ellen and TJ. Beyond the challenges that we've highlighted today, I'm sure there are untapped points of collaboration that exist on the continent. Do we want to state some and share some here right now? Ellen?
Okay. Other points of collaboration across the continent, I really think going even beyond solutions is even just existing together. So I think there's a lot that we can do. There are points of collaborating with education, again, going beyond the solution, and even just points of collaboration on fighting for the same thing. So a lot of issues that happen or that we experience are actually Pan-African. So how can Africans start looking at an African solution and not my solution? So if we have a political problem, can we look at it through devising solutions that are for Africa and not just for Nigeria? So if we start looking at ourselves through that lens, I find nations that are very united to be, for example, the Jews. The Jews are one of the most forward nations on the earth because they stick together. They have the same things. They have more things in common than things that divide them. So if you look at Africa, or even just Nigeria, even within Nigeria, finding things that we hold on to that bring us together beyond the things that divide us, I think that's really some of the points of collaboration that we really should start exploring.
Thank you. TJ?
Yes. Okay, so just wanted to add to what Anto and Daniel said, which is about utilization. I feel like the word for summarizing what they said is utilization. We really need to, as young people, utilize new normals, right? Because a lot of young people are business owners or becoming business owners, right? So for my business, for example, embracing the work from home has helped us to collaborate more and deliver better results. We have staff working in different countries and are able to deliver good work. So that's one, just embracing that new normal. Then also utilizing digital tools like they both said. But for example, I wanted to pick on the rise of AIs, for example. I'm sure everyone knows ChatGPT, for example, and how that alone is going to make people lose jobs. But if you're able to harness it fast, if you're able to also embrace it fast, you can find the solutions or the ways you are able to get value from it. Like just the other day, we're about to employ maybe 3 or 4 more social media managers in the business, right? And we realized that we didn't need that much people anymore because these AIs are able to help you come up with captions for social media in like a minute. What it would take one person to come up with in 2 hours, right? So the word is utilization for us to kind of embrace this new normal and to be able to use these digital tools better. But to come to the answer on untapped points, I really feel like there's a big gap between the older generation and the younger generation. I think that the older generation has this diverse experience, their traditional way of thinking and doing things, and you can't remove that part. And the younger generation also have this high-level creativity and the strength, right, that is needed to attack the world that we are in right now. We need to bridge that gap between the older generation and the younger generation to be able to also achieve a better collaborative effort. I think that the older generation, for example, needs to stop seeing the younger generation also as competition, right? To be able to see them and what they can do. And then we're able to bring that together really to achieve greater work.
Interesting conversation here this evening, and I know our participants here today, they have a question or two they are willing to ask, so I think we just open the floor now to take our questions. Anyone? Okay. Your name, please introduce yourself and ask your question. Lady, orange.
I have a question for, okay, I have a question for mostly the ladies on the panel, right? I know, like, as a lady in the creative industry, trying to network, like, can prove to be very, I don't know if I would say tricky, because then you're trying to make connections with people to collaborate, and then, like, people are thinking other things, like, so what I just want to ask is that I know, like, you would have gone through some of that, so how have you been able to navigate, like, actually collaborating on a big scale while still, like, maintaining your personal integrity as well?
I'll be very honest. Like I said before, that imposter syndrome is very, very real. So I'll give you guys a me. I don't care. So I currently host an Instagram live series where I talk to my fellow influencers about the importance of voting for Nigeria, because I realized that when it comes to the youth, many youths pay more attention to their fave celebrity than their parents or whatever's happening on channels and Arise. So I reached out to one of my fellow influencers a few days ago. This is not a typical person that talks about politics or governance, so I wanted a different voice, and this person did not respond to my message. Right? So I did feel some kind of way for various reasons. I mean, I send you a message, you should respond to me regardless, like just normal human behavior. You should respond and say I don't want, or what have you. So the person didn't respond. Cool. And then it did make me feel some kind of way that maybe we really aren't where we think we are when it comes to Nigeria. That, you know, we think all of us are on this boat of fight for our rights, let's all do this, no matter what you're doing, we're all together. But for this person to have seen the message and not respond, it made me kind of think like, okay, maybe this person really isn't, you know, for the Africa that we want. So it's going to happen. I think as human beings, we need to accept that there are going to be days that this collaboration that we want will not work as we like, but for every one failure, there's probably a million more successes that you can have, and that's what you need to kind of keep in mind, that, you know, that's what we kept talking about, you know, researching, knowledge, understanding. You have to really try to research and see who is the perfect collaborator for you, because it's true. Everyone should not be your partner in every project. It is what it is, you know? So I think it's important for you to decide what is the message that you're trying to get across with this collaboration that you want, and be very keen about looking for the best partners for this project. So yeah, people are going to ignore you. You know, there's going to be days that you're up until 3 a.m. sending DMs, or days that you're on Canva trying to design what have you. It's going to happen. But I think once you have an idea, just the fact that you have that idea is gold. All you have to do is run with it, and I'm sure there is a collaborator for every project. I truly believe in that. So just, you know, the rough days, shake it off, and just next day, just, you know, message 5 more people.
And I also think it's very also important to understand that in networking and collaboration, we must not see networking as down up, right? So you want somebody that is accomplished to help you, right? Sometimes it is within. So collaboration, you have to look at your peers, right? Secondly, the concept of networking is changing. Before, networking is you go and meet the big guys and say, come and work, I want to work with you, or those support. Sometimes is when you're done collaborating with your peers and people in your circle and you have a lot of social proof, those guys come and meet you and say, I've seen your work and I want to collaborate with you. So you see? So collaboration is, don't look at it from me going to those people sometimes, is what can I do with my peers? What can I do what I have? So that even when I reach out and they Google me, they see evidence of what I have. Because see, some people, they are networking, but they don't have evidence. So I want you to come to my podcast, but the podcast have just 2 views, right? So you need to really understand how to manage those complexities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Oh, okay.
I have the mic. Yeah, my name is Redwan. Collaboration is the key. Thanks for that. I just want to ask, how can we protect intellectual property during collaboration? Because a lot of people, they can't wait to steal your idea. Once you present it, they just hide it, then they sell it later. So how can we do that, please? Thank you.
Okay, I think my answer will be quite straightforward. I feel like there's really no way to do that. I think that in the music industry, they are fighting piracy. It's just a challenge that will continue to happen. And I think that I have a very like series of experience in that, and I really think that the response I want to give is for you not to restrict yourself with the idea of someone stealing your idea or like someone copying you. I feel like it's easy for someone to take the idea, but when it comes to the execution, really, like, they would not, no matter how it is, like, they would not be able to deliver it the way you do. And I also know how, like, if you keep putting that in mind, it can restrict how far you can go. Not wanting to share your idea with someone else, or wanting, because you think they would steal it. It has its own serious disadvantages as well. So since it's a challenge that can't be removed from this whole space, I really feel like don't restrict your growth or how you move by not sharing those ideas.
Thank you very much. So we take our final question. Our time is fast spent. She's here.
Okay, so I just had a quick question. One being, so this question is to Ellen more specifically. I actually work with Leap Africa. I work for an organization and we fund grassroots community projects. And so we give money to your fellows or alumni. And so for us, as a US-based organization, we are providing these projects with US dollars. However, I mean, we still find, I mean, as the person that is working in Nigeria, we find that there's still a disconnect, because even in a situation that we're in right now, we're having a lot of the people that we work with, their established field partners, come back and say, hey, you know, we asked for this amount when we applied for the grant, but now the state of the country has changed, right? And this money is no longer going to suffice us being able to implement the projects that we're doing, right? And then for me, it's also like, when we talk about sustainability, we also have to understand that it's also access to finance. If we give a grant to someone twice, 3 times, 4 times, it's now a question of what happens after this resource is no longer available to us. What other resources are we making available? And I think that's something like, for me, I feel we don't talk about as much, because it's easy to give people the tools and resources to implement these projects, but when it comes down to actually being able to fund them, then there's always a question of that, you know. And then the last, another question, just another one, in terms of collaboration, I feel like when we talk about collaboration, sometimes it's like people want to really have their brand or their name on things. And I think it's easy to be like, oh, everybody, we can work together, but it's like, I mean, I work also in the nonprofit space, and you find that organizations get very like aggressive when it comes down to wanting to put their, you know, they want to have some type of stakehold. So it's hard sometimes to want to collaborate, because it's like everyone also wants credit. They want to feel like they've done something or made an impact to some capacity. So yeah.
All right, thank you. I'll start from the last question and move forward. You're right, a lot of people want recognition for the work they do, and I think we need more solutions. Again, I would answer that in 2 parts. There's one part of people being better or start looking at themselves as, I'm looking at the change and I'm not looking at the name. But then there's also the part where we need to have more solutions that have more names on the board, right? So for example, a Youth Day of Service, our goal is not for Leap Africa to be there. Our goal is for you and your organization do something, put your name on it, and ride on the hype that is already there. So when we talk about civic responsibility, active citizenship, we're not trying to put our names. Like, people should move from, hey, you, do what you can do, put your name on it, and run with it. So I think more and more is, on one part, like I said, people need to reorient themselves about change, about impact. It's beyond having your name on the door. It's also about, you know, it's really about the change that you're able to impact. Then people also need to create solutions that allow visibility for everybody. So it's a big space. Everyone can participate. Do what you can do so far as the work is done. You know, the Bible says, so far as Christ is preached, we don't care who does it, right? So anyone can go about it. The end result is the change is done. Then with sustainable funding and people being, projects really continuing beyond, oh, the fund is finished. I want to let Daniel answer this too, but because, I mean, he's a programs guy, he's the one who runs programs. But on one part I would say is sustainability is beyond the thinking, it's a way of life, it's something that can be taught. I really am interested in the social innovator space because I find social enterprises to be really intelligent. The fact that you're looking at a solution and you're not just looking about the funding that comes in, is how can I use this funding to continue to sustain it? And I think a lot of even entrepreneurs need to start thinking like social innovators. So it's not just about the big money that comes in. It's how can I use this money to maintain quality, but yet continue to produce results? So I think there is the tools, maybe there's even the rethinking that has to be done in the tools that we equip these social innovators with, because the money is never going to be enough. Even if more money comes into this space, it's never going to be enough. Now is how can we use this money to multiply? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant response. And if I'm to add anything to that, is be one, let this organization, when they're doing their budget, they should also signify where they're also going to contribute their own funds with, right? So beyond your year, so for example, in my company now, in our budget template, there's a space for what are you bringing, right? So if the budget for this program is 20K pounds, it's like you have to bring like a 2K pounds. So commit to something, so it allows for that. Secondly, is that organizations should begin to think creatively about their solutions. So people, they want to do an outreach, I'll train teachers, I'll provide this. It's the same thing every year. We're not solving any problem. We're just, massaging the ego of the problem to become more wicked than it was before. So I think we should be very critical about people coming up with innovative and creative solutions, and don't fund solutions that are not creative. Also, begin to look at these organizations coming up with products or services because when they have a product and service, it's more sustainable than just a one-off.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you to our panelists for today's conversation. A round of applause for them. Thank you, Ellen, Daniel, TJ, and Anto. It's been a great pleasure listening in. The conversation continues. Please follow at Leap Africa, catch the highlights of the Youth Day of Service, as well as other collaborative efforts that exist within the social development space. Until then, I ask all of us to have a very wonderful good evening. Thank you for joining us.